Hello, welcome or welcome back to the Yarn and Yarns YouTube channel. My name is Angela and all the places you can find me should be linked in the description box below this video. Here on the channel you'll find me chatting about my adventures in knitting, spinning, crochet and weaving, all of the fibre related things. Welcome to day one of my 12 cast on party 2025. The time has arrived again. Does it just seem like yesterday that we were doing this for 12 cast ons 2024? It certainly does to me. As I'm recording this, it's Christmas Eve and it's about 2 o'clock in the afternoon and I have just finished work for the day. Yes, I had to work today. I've actually only got Christmas Day and Boxing Day off the day job this year. So what better way to celebrate my next 2.5 days off than by starting my first cast on for our cast on extravaganza. If you happen to be new to the channel, I have recently popped up a little introduction video explaining what the 12 cast-ons is and how you get involved. But in a nutshell, between now, as I'm recording, which is the 24th of December, and the 31st of January, I shall be casting on 12 new projects to set myself up for my coming weeks, months, years worth of making. Each project that I cast on, I make a little vlog which I share, and then after the cast on portion of our make along has finished at the end of January, we'll then spend the rest of 2025 trying to complete as many of our projects as we can. For day one, I am doing what might be one of the most unhinged things I've done as part of our 12 cast ons, because my plan is for this project not to cast on 1, not to cast on 2 or even 3 things, but eventually I shall end up casting on 9 new pairs of socks. And I'm including them as one cast on because it's my make along and I can. In order to have prepared for this, I did cheat a little bit and I recorded a little bit of an introduction a few weeks ago. I'm going to pass you back to Ange from the past and she will explain what on earth is going on. Well, hello friends, how are you? I am cheating slightly with this year's first 12 cast on video because it's November as I'm recording this, but I need to do a little bit of prep work for this video. I'm just recording this little snippet before I wind up these yarns and gather project bags, needles, ready for this one. Hopefully future me has done a bit of an intro to this vlog and you will know by now that I am going to be casting on not 1, but I think 9 pairs of socks. Is it 9? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 9 pairs of socks. And I'm counting them as one cast on because it's my cast on party and I will celebrate as I want. I have got lots of this beautiful West Yorkshire Spinners yarn. It's their signature 4-ply. There's some more on the down here as well. I can't hold them all up. And these are all past Christmas colourways that for one reason and another I've never got around to knitting up. So I've decided that 2025 is the year that I'm going to knit all of the Christmas socks. I'm going to be casting on all of these socks during the coming year, hopefully. I'm finishing them, of course. I'm going to probably cast on a couple of pairs on the first day of the 12 cast ons, but probably not all 9. I don't want to spend the whole day knitting, ribbing. Some of these colourways I've actually knit with before, but I've not ended up keeping the socks for myself. I've definitely knit 1 if not 2 pairs of socks with the Robin colourway, which have been given away to friends and family. I've also knit a pair of socks with this lovely sparkly Silent Night colourway. Those I gifted to my mother-in-law for Christmas a couple of Christmases ago. And then I've also knit with this one, the name of which is escaping me. I knit a pair of socks that was meant to be for me with this beautiful stripy sparkly yarn, and I added a little bit of colour work at the top, some cute little festive gnomes. When I knit them, one of my lovely friends, Catherine, said how much she wanted them, could I knit her a pair, and she happens to have very similar size feet to me, so I got her to try on the original pair that I knit and they fit her, so I gave them to Catherine. So I'm going to hopefully recreate those socks with this yarn. I'm not starting entirely from scratch with this lovely collection of yarns. I do have a couple of pairs already in my collection that I've knit from the previous Christmas colourways. I have these pair of gingerbread socks. I cast these on as a 12 cast on project a couple of years ago, and I've barely worn these, so they're still looking fairly pristine. Not looking quite so pristine. In fact, looking like they definitely need to be depilled are this pair of Hollyberry socks, which I think was one of the first Christmas colourways that came out. It might even have been the second Christmas colourway. I could be remembering that wrong now. But yeah, I knit these ages ago for myself, and they are actually one of my most worn pair of socks. They may even need a little bit of repair on the toe at some point, so I might add that to the list of things to do. But yeah, you can see maybe by the amount of wear and pilling on those that they have been well worn and well loved. Thankfully, I've knit these for myself, because otherwise I'd be casting on 11 pairs of socks. Actually, let me try and hold up all of the West Yorkshire Spinner yarns to start with. Can I do this? I'm not so sure. Yeah, so here are all the lovely West Yorkshire Spinners yarns. I don't know if I'm going to embarrass myself trying to remember all of these names. West Yorkshire Spinners have, over the last few years, started printing the colourway names on the labels, but back in the day they never used to do that. So this is Nutcracker. This is Candy Cane. I think this was the very first colourway. This is Fairy Lights, the sparkle version. There's also Fairy Lights, the non-sparkle version. Robin, which I've already shared with you, which is one of the British Birds colourways as well, but it was originally brought out as a Christmas colourway. And then this year's colourway is Yuletide. So I have all of those to cast on at some point during the year. I'll see how many I can get on the needles during the first day of cast-ons, as well as those, and of course the two yarns that I've already mentioned, the Silent Night and I want to say Vintage Tinsel. I'm probably remembering that incorrectly, who knows. Anyway, doesn't really matter. Hopefully I'll have named that colourway on the screen somewhere at some point during this vlog. As well as those, I also have a fabulous Christmas colourway from Trekking XXL, which was a gift from my dear friend Caroline of Colourful Creativity. Caroline sent this to me a couple of Christmases ago, and it's this beautiful red, white and green sort of traditional Christmassy colourways. So I'm going to be casting this on as part of my collection of Christmas socks as well. And then I think that's the majority of the Christmas colourways in my stash that will hopefully get knitted up this year. I don't think I've got any Christmas colourways in indie dyed yarn. This is all obviously commercial sock yarn, my favourite kind of sock yarn to work with. Day one, and my first cast on is technically 9 cast ons. Oops. Just go with it. Just ignore me if you want. Most people do. You'll soon get used to me if you're new here. One of the reasons I'm recording this ahead of time is because I don't like to work from yarn straight from these balls as provided by the yarn companies. I prefer to wind my yarn up into cakes on my ball winder. I just find it easier to pull the yarn out from these pre-wound cakes, and it also helps me in advance to find out sometimes in commercial yarn or even in indie dyed yarn there are joins in the ball. It doesn't happen very often, but I like to try and come across those kind of issues before I start knitting. So particularly with these self-patterning yarns where you don't necessarily want the stripe pattern to be interrupted, if I can sort that out before I start knitting, then all the better. I'm recording this ahead of time just so I can start winding up some of these colourways and I don't spend the whole first day of my cast on party winding yarn rather than knitting.
Merry Christmas, baby. Reindeer's coming out to play. Santa Claus is packing the presents, making sure you've been behaving okay. Merry Christmas, honey. Yeah. The snowman's dusting off his hat, on the show for everybody, to give him a smile that lasts another year. This Christmas, baby. The snow is laying 2 feet deep. Now wish upon a falling star, so all your secret dreams can come true. There's something that happens when sleigh bells are ringing.
Back to the here and now. I have all of my yarns in one of my Emma Ball project bags. They're all wound up and ready to use. One of the main reasons that I started this 12 cast-ons experiment a few years ago was as an excuse to use up some of the yarns in my stash. So this definitely satisfies that. I've had some of these yarns for a number of years, and every year when the Christmas colourways are released, I say to myself, I will cast that on and knit that up soon. And as you can see, soon has never really materialised. The 12 cast-ons seems like a good excuse to get these on the needles. Also, I noticed as I went through 2024, I cast on quite a few just because pairs of vanilla socks, because I wanted something while I was out and about, either with friends or on trips to the cinema, when I was waiting at medical appointments and stuff like that. So I feel like casting on with these yarns will mostly satisfy that need for me in 2025. So the majority of the yarns in here will end up being just plain vanilla socks. Having said that, I do have plans for a couple of these yarns that won't be just plain vanilla socks. So I've got a colourwork pattern in mind for the Silent Night colourway. Hopefully I've got enough of that left when I combine that with another colour to make a pattern. I haven't 100% decided yet, but I think it's going to be a pattern from one of Charlotte Stone's colourwork socks books. I don't have the book with me, but there's one pattern that's snowflake design, and I think like white snowflakes on this sparkly blue background will look really nice. One of the socks that I may end up casting on today with this candy cane colourway, I'm hoping to do another pair of stripe tees socks by General Hogbuffer. It's a free pattern over on Ravelry, and I knit up a pair of scrappy stripe tees a few months ago. The original pattern was designed to be used with self-striping yarn, and I thought this one might be a good one to perhaps knit another pair of striped tees with. I did of course mention with the vintage tinsel, I'm also planning to recreate a gnome pattern that I made. So yeah, there's a few different varieties of sock, a few different ideas for the yarns in this bag, but on the whole I think they're just going to be plain vanilla socks. I'm not going to cast on all 9 pairs of socks today because 1, I don't have time, and 2, probably don't have 9 pairs of sock needles. Circumstances, work and family related, mean that I'm actually going to be spending Christmas the next few days on my own, which isn't ideal, but it's just how it is. So I have the house to myself. I can do whatever I jolly well like. So I'm thinking I might just have a nice cozy afternoon watching a few Disney movies. Now, I haven't really watched much in the way of Disney animated movies in the last 30 years or so. I think the last Disney movie I probably watched was probably Beauty and the Beast, Little Mermaid, that kind of era was my Disney. Thought this might be a good way to try and get maybe 3 or 4 pairs of socks on the needles. We'll see what I have time for. I'm thinking I could pop on a movie, cast on a sock, and see how far I can get with that sock during the length of a movie. I think in the main, these films are probably going to be like 1.5 to 2 hours long each. So that seems like a good amount of time to get something cast on and maybe progress it a little bit. If I end up just knitting 3 or 4 lots of rib, that's fine. I'm completely prepared for that today. I think the first pair of socks I will cast on is the lovely yarn that was a gift from the wonderful Caroline of Colourful Creativity. And I'm thinking for this sock, I might actually do a waffle pattern because I've got several pairs of socks using the waffle pattern and they're so nice and cozy and squishy, and so I think I might just start off with that. Here we go. Let's cast on, watch a film and see how far we get. first movie is finished. It was very cute, not my favourite Disney, but the colours in the animation were amazing. I will share my progress on the sock probably at the end. I'll try and record the end of this video in daylight so I can show you a little better. The movie went on for about an hour and a half in the end, and I made some decent progress. I got past the ribbed cuff, so that was always going to be a nice bonus. Time's moved on a little bit now. I did pause the movie part way to do some boring house chores, but I'm not going to share that dullness with you. So it's getting on towards 6 o'clock now, so I think I might make myself some food before I put on the next movie and cast on the next sock. The next movie is going to be Moana, and I'm going to cast on this sparkly loveliness. So this is the Fairy Lights colourway, the sparkle version. I thought I'd cast on one of these because I've got two versions of this yarn. I've got the sparkle one and the non-sparkle one. So I thought, as it's Christmas Eve, it seems like the best excuse to add a little bit of sparkle, doesn't it? And this is definitely going to be just a plain sock, just a plain vanilla sock. Perhaps no surprise given that I live by the sea and I love living here, but I absolutely loved Moana. As did my cat Newt. There might be a little bit of footage of her just watching the movie. She tends to ignore the TV most of the time, but for some reason she was fascinated, so yeah. I also loved knitting with the Fairy Lights sparkle yarn. I'm not always attracted to the sparkly yarns. There was just something really cosy this evening. Tree lights on, candle going, just a cozy atmosphere, and the silver sparkle in the yarn just catching the light every now and then. Yeah, just loved the Moana and sparkle sock experience. It's actually getting on a little bit now. It's getting on for 8:30, maybe a bit later. So originally I'd hoped I'd maybe cast on 4 pairs of socks. I'm not sure if that's going to be possible. I'm an early to bed, early to rise kind of person these days. However, I feel like maybe I could try and push myself. You know, it's the first day of the cast-ons. That's worth staying up for, right? If I can, we'll see. Although these movies are only about an hour and a half long, I tend to set an alarm on my phone for every half hour just to get up and move, stretch my hands, do something around the house, you know, just so I'm not sat on the sofa for hours and hours knitting. So yeah, it takes me a couple of hours to get through one movie. So I'm not sure if 4 is going to be possible, but if it is, then I might use another sparkle yarn for my 4th cast on, as I enjoyed the last one so much. For this next one, I think I am going to watch the movie Frozen. Yes, shock, horror, gasp, I've not seen Frozen. I know some of you with kids or grandkids of a certain age probably watched that movie on repeat over the last few years, but I've not seen it. And of course, wintry. It seems like a good Christmas Eve Disney movie. So yeah, I'm going to pop on Frozen, see what all the fuss is about, and I'm going to cast on with the candy cane yarn. So I'm going to be casting on a stripe tease sock with this particular yarn. I appreciate I'm not the target audience for these movies that I'm watching this evening, but Frozen was not the one for me. There were some bits about it I liked, but no. Bring back Moana. It's now 10:30 at night and part of me is thinking I should really go to bed, but I had been rifling around in my needle case and I've got one more pair of 2.25mm needles left, and I knit my socks on 2.25mm. It seems like maybe I should just push through and cast on the 4th pair of socks. I'm going to cast on another sparkly pair, as that made me happy before. So I'm going to work with this year's West Yorkshire Spinners Christmas colourway, which is Yuletide. And this will just be another plain sock. The other thing that I've done since I last chatted was just grab one of my little notebooks that I often shove into my project bags and just made a note of what I've been doing for each of the different socks. The striped tees is a slightly different stitch count. I've done slightly longer than my usual ribbing on the other 2 socks, so I just want to kind of keep everything clear, so I make sure that I get the second sock as close to matching the first sock as I can when the time comes. Obviously there's a lot of socks to knit but hopefully that will help me. I shall pop that in the project bag once I've finished this final pair of socks. Final movie of the night is going to be an older one. I'm going to watch Brave. It is time to wrap up this first video, the first day of the 12 cast-ons 2025 for me. Before I share with you the progress that I made on day 1 with my project, or projects in this case, I do like to give out some shout outs to our community members who are participating in the 12 cast-ons along with me. If you happen to be new to the 12 cast-ons, I try to shout out as many people as comment on the videos as I can. So if you want a shout out, then please comment on one of the YouTube videos. If you'd like to enter into the prize draw for the cast-on portion of our make-along, then you need to post a picture of your cast-on or cast-ons, and you can do that either over on Instagram. We're using the hashtag 12castons2025, and you'll know if I've seen your post because I will like it and I'll leave some kind of comment. Sometimes it's just an emoji, but you'll know that I've seen that. You can use our Ravelry threads if you're a Ravelry user, and we've just got a chatter thread going for the 12 cast-ons make along, and you just need to post a picture of your project in that chatter thread. There's also a finished object thread open for that, for the make along as well. So if you happen to have finished anything, you can post there. But of course you don't need to have finished anything to be in this first part of the make along. If you don't use Ravelry or Instagram, I do have my Facebook group linked below. If you're a Facebook user, you could message me over on Facebook. I don't check in on Facebook quite as often though, so if you do want to do an entry via Facebook, then just let me know that you've sent me a message over there. If you're not a Ravelry user and you don't use any social media either, you can always email me YarnNYarns@yahoo.com with a picture of your cast-ons, and you'll get 1 entry into the prize draw for each project that you cast on. And of course we are casting on up until the end of January, so you've still got plenty of time to join in if you want to do so. Okay, so as is always the case, the first few videos are really busy with cast-ons because a lot of people are getting involved. There's Christmas Eve cast-ons going on, New Year's Eve cast-ons going on. But the first few days just full of new projects, and then things do tend to taper off a little bit. So if I don't get caught up on everyone's comments, then hopefully as the videos progress I will. So yeah, just bear with me. I want to try and include as many people as I can, but it's quite a lot of work for me to gather up everyone's comments, so I do my best. If I accidentally leave anyone out, it's not deliberate. It's just there's a lot of background admin around this make along that goes on, as well as me casting on and doing my knitting, doing the videos, and of course fitting in real life work, etc, etc. So Christine has started 3 projects: a granny headscarf, a hat for her husband, and a V-stitch scarf. The hopeful heliophile has cast on and finished a coffee cup cozy, which is colour work practice for a future cast on project. The Stash Down Diaries has started mitts, scarf, poncho, socks and a sweater. Mary has cast on 3 projects, a muscle bra, a pressed flowers sweater and also a hexagon house coat, and the last 2 projects are from Handspun, which I love hearing about everyone's Handspun projects getting cast on. Margaret has cast on a weekender. Louise has cast on a hat and has been swatching for a jumper project. Little Lycac has cast on a mystical lanterns blanket and is also posting vlogs of her 12 cast-ons. I know that I think there were 2 when I checked in, but there's probably more by the time this video goes up, so if I remember I'll try to link to their channel below. Teresa has cast on an Innsbruck scarf. Lynn has cast on a v-neck sweater. Shauna has cast on an anthology. The Flossco has cast on soles to repair a pair of her favourite knitted slippers, which is amazing, the Cozy Toesies. Kirsty Knits and Sews is also vlogging on her channel about her 12 cast-ons, and the first one is the Heritage Harbour, which was one of my most recent cast-offs. Ford Toque has cast on the Magic Toadstool socks. This is also a test of can Ange pronounce these words. Can she keep her teeth in? Handspun Traveller, an XL, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, cowl and a scrappy blanket. Tonya has cast on 2 hot water bottle covers, which are going to be gifts. The Frugal Knitter has cast on an Oslo sweater. Ruth has started a So Basic sweater. Andrea has started socks and a fractal spin. I love to see spinning represented, not just the knitting of the handspun, but new spin projects as well. I love to hear about those. Celeste has started some socks and a sweater. Linda of the Disley Sisters Knitting Podcast is also either popping up some vlogs or some shorts about her projects and has started a blanket. April has cast on some socks. Catherine has cast on a muscle bra and a blanket. Angela of Attic Spin Dye is starting some crochet socks. I've never crocheted socks before. Heather, Ginny, Sue and Kathy have all also started socks. Socks are always a really popular project. I think particularly the Christmas Eve cast on, which was started many years ago, I believe, by Danny of Little Bobbins. So loads of people cast on socks on Christmas Eve, which I love to see. And of course, I cast my socks on Christmas Eve too. Corrie has started a gullane, and last but not least, Kelly has started a scarf using her handspun yarn. Lots of amazing projects, and those are just the ones that have been left as comments under YouTube. Doesn't include the ones I've seen over on Ravelry and on Instagram. There's just so many new projects going onto the needles, and this makes my heart really happy. I love this time of year and I need some extra cheer at the moment. Okay, so my socks are up in the project bag, up out of the way. No, that's not the right project bag. My socks are in this project bag. Oops, hit myself on the head. It's all going wrong. It's only the first video. Anyway. So 4 pairs of socks on the needles, and I think I showed glimpses of each of these, but probably not the full progress on any of them. So the first pair that I cast on was with this lovely Trekking XXL yarn, which was a gift from my friend Caroline, and I got the cuff and a good few pattern repeats. I'm just doing the waffle pattern. I think there's a pair of socks called Blueberry Waffle on Ravelry, which is a free pattern. I think they're for DK weight socks if I remember rightly, but as long as you have a multiple of 4 in your cast on count, you can adapt that pattern for use on any number of cast on stitches. And I just love the sort of squishy, really stretchy fabric that waffle pattern gives. I've got quite a few pairs of socks knit in this pattern. My sparkly Fairy Lights socks, again I got cuff and a portion of the leg done. I wonder if I got slightly more done on the first sock. It's very difficult to tell on the camera, but there's a few more rows on that rib. I would imagine that probably the first movie Encanto was a little bit longer than the second. I've definitely worked through a colour repeat on this self-patterning yarn. There's just something about the sparkles at this time of year that just suits, doesn't it? A little bit of extra twinkle on the dull grey days, and it is so dull and grey today. Windy, rainy again outside. My stripe tee socks from the candy cane yarn, I ended up working the cuff, which I think I may have shown a cuff or part of the cuff in previous clips. Now these are getting in a bit of a tangle because of the nature of the construction of these socks, but I've done the cuff and I've done the first stripe or on the leg. So hard to show these. So I stopped at the point where I needed to, the next stage will be to pick up a bunch of stitches down this edge and then pick up some across the cuff and then start knitting down the next stripe. The movie was just about to finish as I got to that stage, so I thought that was a good place to stop on those. And then finally, pair of socks number 4 is from the Yuletide colourway, which was this year's West Yorkshire Spinners Christmas colourway. And I think I might have a ball or two of this left in the YarnNYarns online shop on the website if anyone didn't snag any and fancies grabbing some for themselves. And again, cuff and part of the leg, and again I think I've worked through at least one entire colour repeat of the self-striping pattern. Would you believe it? It's actually 9 o'clock in the morning and I've got the overhead light on. It's just so great outside. I try and find somewhere in the house where there's a little bit of daylight coming through to take a video shot of all of those. So obviously I got roughly the same kind of progress on each of the socks, which makes sense because all of those movies were about the same kind of length. Yeah, I try and lay them out side by side somewhere and pop a shot in just so you can see how much I managed to achieve on the first day of cast-ons. So with that, we have reached the end of day 1 of my 12 cast-ons adventures. I hope you have enjoyed the video. Don't forget to let me know in the comments below what you've been casting on in the last few days. And again, I will try and give as many people a shout out on the next video as I can. I will be back again soon with some more making content. Obviously the next video will be cast on number 2, and cast on number 2 is actually in that project bag behind me that I accidentally pulled down first. All of the yarn and everything is all ready to go in there, so it won't be too long before the next video is up. So I hope you will join me for that one. Until we do get to spend time together again, I hope you get to do some other things that you enjoy. Great big woolly hugs to you all. Bye for now. Bye.